I'm a Christian who doesn't believe in God, but
All right, something very specific is happening here. I'm not actually going to address what the creator was trying to convey with his very unique perspective on what Christians are and what he thinks he is. That's not the point anymore. You've probably heard it said at one point or another that the medium is the message. And you don't know what to do with that kind of catchphrase. You know it came from Marshall McLuhan, but you don't know how it applies to different mediums, like TikTok. Well, this is how it applies. What that creator did was create something that is more akin to an idol than it is to communication. He has his own perspectives, his own theories, his own understandings of the world, and he has tried to make something that bears his image in order to promote those, in order to have those be represented somewhere else. Because as much as you want to believe it, this is not me that you're seeing on this screen, and that was not him that you're seeing on the screen. Those are carefully selected pixels that show you just enough representation to have your brain think that you're looking at a person when in fact you're looking at a flat piece of glass with pixels being projected onto it. You can see this by turning down the resolution on videos. If you go to YouTube and you turn down the resolution to like 144, you don't want to watch that stuff because you can see like this is just a bad recording and you recognize it immediately as a recording. But when it's 1080p or 4K, your brain gets that trick. You can see this even better if you watch those videos of like stunt people who are like hanging off of cranes or letting their feet dangle off the edge of buildings and stuff like that. If you have any kind of fear of heights or if you have any experience being at those heights, your feet start to tingle because your brain recognizes that kind of stuff. That's the magic of high definition videography posted on the internet. But you can make that magic disappear by simply turning the resolution down to 144p, and then your brain's like, oh, we're not in danger, we're watching YouTube. That's what's happening here. That content creator has made something that he wants to convey his thoughts, his perspective, his really weird position of saying he's a Christian somehow, but not believing in God, which is what Christianity is. It is believing that Christ is God. But we're not going to address that because that's not what's actually happening. What's actually happening is the medium of TikTok, which is kind of digital idolatry, is taking over. It's taking that and it's putting it into the feed of other Christians as a form of kind of content that they can just kind of scroll and eventually find because it matches enough of the criteria. And then what happens? What happens when a Christian like, I don't know, like Wes Huff or Thinkumentary or any of these Christian content creators who like do reaction videos do? Like what happens when they see a video like that? Wow, they have to make their own content. And then they make a little digital representation of themselves to put out with counterpoints to that kind of stuff. And the idolatry continues. That's because the medium of TikTok are these digital idols where we take representations of ourselves and throw them into the algorithm so that they end up in the feeds of other people where they can then extract time, attention, and emotional response. This happens universally across all kind of brands of TikTok, all kinds of content, but it happens specifically with this stuff. There is no need to share that kind of unique perspective unless you wanted idolatry to kind of move forward. And the original creator probably doesn't know that. He probably doesn't understand that that's what's happening. But that is what's happening. This little tiny video is going out and it's provoking a response from people. It's making sure they take the time to watch that video so they can understand his perspective, so they can rebut his perspective. All in this kind of parasocial exercise where it's not actually two people talking or two people, corresponding with each other. It's an algorithm trying to get as much outrage as possible or as much response as possible from the people who it can give or place that representative media in front of people. In the past, idols fed off different things, and the false religions that were around the idols fed off different things. In the Old Testament, there were temple prostitutes and child sacrifices because what it fed off of was lust. What it fed off of was sexual desire as tied to provision, as tied to, like how to be kind of like a wealthy person. If you could have lots of kids, you were wealthy. And so if you had kids, you could sacrifice those kids to the idols in order to get provision, because it showed that you were wealthy, and it showed that you were giving something of worth to the idol so that it could be sacrificed. And that's the same reason also why you would have sex with the temple prostitutes, is because it was a way to give something to it that matched the desires that you were hoping to get back from the idol and stuff like that. Well, now idols don't need to go off of lust or fear or any of those emotions. They can simply feed off rage. They can feed off the outrage that such a blatantly obvious contradictory statement of "I'm a Christian, but I don't believe in God" would provoke out of any Christian on here. But that's because the Christians on here also don't see that they're the ones who are trying to get other people to get provoked off their content. Everyone's making little idols here. And unless you step back and say, I'm not making an idol, I'm trying to put raw information here. I'm not a person. I'm not trying to communicate with you. I am making a video for information purposes only. That's when you break that cycle. Everyone else is just doing idolatry. Some of us are just trying to do it with a Jesus flavor. And then the end result of that is people saying that it's a Jesus flavor when it clearly isn't a Jesus flavor of idolatry. And you get this.